One of the fascinating things about these old photographs, particularly after they get enlarged a little bit, is how much you can learn from them. One thing that Kevin and I did when we were working on this exhibit was to actually take down the names of the businesses and then go to the old town and city directories as well as the Maine registers and find out what years these businesses were in operation. For example, there's a photograph of Main Street in Mechanic Falls. Well, how do you date it? Well, maybe you could date it by the date of the automobile, but you can do it even more precisely with the fact that there's a building with a sign on it that says Central Garage. We find out from the old directories the Central Garage was in business only from 1920 to 30, thus the photograph has to have been taken just in that 10-year period. That's the kind of fascinating research that these old photographs prompt. It's like going into the photograph, looking around, and finding out what we can take back with us for analysis. Well, I think the collection is significant on several levels. First, the Easton Illustrating Company did such a comprehensive record of Maine villages, towns, and cities from the period of around 1910 to 1950. Secondly, the quality of the photographs they took is outstanding, and they were all taken on glass plate negatives and then at that time printed into postcards, and now we can, through the digital process, create really first-class, very clear enlargements of those photographs. And by enlarging them, of course, we can learn so much more about what was in them, what the camera captured. And the great thing is that these are the unvarnished, ungarnished view of what communities looked like, what they actually looked like, the record in the particular time and place. I became particularly fascinated in the photographs that were chosen of the main streets for this exhibit with the fact that many of them were in the period just at the beginning of the automobile, the period right after World War I into the 1920s. And we're seeing in these photographs the first impact that the automobile has on small main streets in the state. For example, there'll be a general store, and suddenly comes 1919, 1920, demand for automotive products, for gas, for oil, and up in front of that general store, right on the sidewalk, will appear one or two early gas pumps. Now, we think today of pulling into large service stations, but here is the earliest period of how people bought their automotive supplies. And it literally was curbside service, and you learn that from these photographs. The fact that this archive extends into thousands of images means that once the opportunity to actually view all these images, now Kevin has digitally printed about 10,000 of these, but there are many more beyond that. I've only looked at a few hundred of them so far. I can't wait to look at more. I looked at some today, in fact. Every time you look at one of these images, you learn something new, something that otherwise, had that photograph not been taken, could very well be a lost piece of information to local and to state history. I think this collection has a number of significant applications. For one, the exhibit concentrates on main streets. And in recent years, there has been a very concerted effort to bring back Main Street in its importance to communities all over the state. One of the facets of that movement has been to restore the historic storefronts along Main Street. And these photographs, taken anywhere from 75 to 100 years ago, are in many cases the best, the clearest record we have of what buildings looked like that have now been changed. These photographs can guide architects, builders, property owners to bring back the integrity of the historic main streets. Another great value of these photographs is in really recording the tourist industry in Maine. The photographs of Mount Desert Island, for example, that have recently joined the collection, show a vanished way of life. The great hotels, the cottages, the early period of Acadia National Park. All of that is reflected in the several hundred glass plates that survive relating to Mount Desert. That's another whole area of the state's history that we will learn about.